Hello everyone. So friend, in this lecture we'll discuss that how we can configure Mockito to basically throw an exception when any of the methods of the mock objects are called. And also friends, performing testing on exceptions cover our negative scenarios. So let's see the demonstration of it. In our main Java folder, I will be creating one package as com.hubberspot.mockito.exception handling. And to this package, I will be using the same book repository, normal book request, and our book service, which is our class under test, which we already discussed in our previous lectures. So I'll simply copy this part and I will paste it in exception handling package. So friends, here in book service, let's just simply remove all these methods, and in book repository I remove all these methods. Now let's say in our book service class I provide a method as get total price of books. So here what we do is, let's say I call book repository find all books method, which basically returns me a list of books. And after getting the list of books, what I do is I create an integer variable total price, and then we simply iterate over each and every book present in this list, and we simply add the price of the books with the total price, and finally we return total price. So friends, here you can see in book repository interface we need to provide this method. So we create this method. Now here this method, let's say, goes into database and find all books, and let's say it throws, let's say, SQL exception if some exception occurs while finding all the books. So here in book service, compiler asks us to handle this exception. So let's say we provide a try catch. So if the exception occurs, then here in the catch we are printing the stack trace. So friend, what we usually do here is, let's say if this SQL exception is occurring, so from our service layer we usually throw our own customized exceptions. So here what we do is, instead of printing the stack trace, we usually log the exception, and then we throw, let's say we throw our own customized exception as database read exception. So this is our customized exception where we pass, let's say, a string, unable to read from database due to, and here we provide whatever the exception we got here, we are simply doing the get message and appending it. So here, let's say we create database read exception in the same folder, and here we will give something like, let's say, runtime exception. In the constructor, what we do is we simply call the super, and whatever message came we simply pass it to here. So friend, now let's suppose we want to test this get total price of books, and we want to test the negative scenario when, let's suppose, book repository throws an exception. So when it throws, let's say, SQL exception, our class under test should throw a database read exception with this message. So here in our test folder, what we'll do, we create a package exception handling, and here we'll simply copy this book service test into our exception handling. And let's say we keep the one test and we remove all other tests. Here we provide test name as test total price of books. So friend, we want to test book service get total price of books method, and it will return a integer total price of books. So friend, when this method will be called and we want to test the negative scenario which should occur here, we want to tell Mockito that when book repository find all books is called, then throw a SQL exception so that we can verify that we are getting our own exception, which is the database read exception. So here what we do is Mockito provide us a way to throw an exception. So we can use when book repository dot find all books is called, and instead of then return we have this then throw, where we can provide the throwables. And let's say here we provide SQL exception dot class. We need to add the exception to the method signature. So here we are telling Mockito that when find all books is called, then throw this SQL exception. So friends, here you can see that when we'll call this method, we won't get any total price of books, but we actually get an exception. So here what we can do is, in JUnit 5, we have this method as assert throws, which takes in two parameters. One is the exception which we are expecting. So let's say we provide database read exception dot class, and the second argument is the executable, where we are simply performing an action. So here our action is this book service dot get total price of books. So as this is a lambda expression, the executable part, what we can do is we can simply copy this part and paste it here. We remove this stuff. So friend, when we want to test the negative scenarios, let's say when we call this repository, we get a SQL exception. So we are simply wrapping this SQL exception to our own customized exception and throwing it back. So here if I run the test, so friends, here you can see the test case got executed successfully. That whatever we expected that it should throw database read exception, we asserted it with assert throws method. So friend, in this lecture we saw that how we can configure Mockito to test our negative scenarios using when and then throw methods. I hope you like this video. Thanks, have a nice day.